right, well, let's get the party started because, it's after 7 o'clock already and I have the patience level of a gnat. So, welcome everyone. Our good friend Sean Hurwitz is in the house with us tonight. And I'm guessing John, Mark, Mac, you guys are fairly familiar with Sean because I often see the five of us in rooms all together along with Anthony and Eric as well. So we've definitely got a night of familiarity so far going on. And we're just going to do like a fairly quick intro, let Sean go on about his origins and really get to know him on that level for a few minutes. And then we're going to break things open and get a little bit deep on the sync end. So, Sean, you know that I find it very interesting that you are born of American parents in Israel. So we talked a little bit about today, and I was just curious if you wanted to share a little bit about the circumstances and growing up.
Well, thanks for having me. Which part would you like me to talk about specifically? The circumstances that brought me to Los Angeles, or like, it's 23 years. Tell me what you think people want to know.
Well, let's just start with being, a kid that was born in Israel to American parents. What was it that took your parents to Israel?
Yeah, well, I mean, like you said, they are American, born and raised in New York, Bronx and Queens, if I'm not mistaken, and they just grew up in Jewish families, religious families that, and they went to Hebrew school, and they always sang the songs about, B'Shana Haba B'Yerushalayim B'Bnuya. Next year, basically, we're going to be in Israel when the Mashiach comes, Messiah. And, it's just a song, but they always felt like, you know what, talk is cheap. We want to actually go there. So they both went there in at different points in time to check it out, and then ended up getting married and moving there. And then had me, and my mother finished her doctorate there, her PhD. They had me and three other younger brothers. Where would you like me to go from there?
I think it's time to tell the story of what got you into music.
Yeah. Do you want to do it or me?
No, because then I'm going to bring up the Biff scene, and I think that you're the Marty McFly guy. So before I go
Yeah.
all Biff.
Interesting though. Well, at the beginning of the 90s, there was a Gulf War, and more or less at the same time, more or less in those few years, we also got cable finally. I think when the Gulf War was done there in Iraq, we got cable. Suddenly we had more than, two? I want to say three channels. Suddenly there were more. It was MTV Europe. And one of the things that I saw on this cable was, other than, I mean, MTV brought Michael Jackson into my life, brought Bon Jovi into my life, Eric Clapton, more than just the stuff that I used to hear that my parents used to play. I suddenly was actually watching this guy perform. But I think the thing that really did it for me when I was around 13 was it was Bon Jovi, Walking Down the Street and Keep the Faith, doing that song. But it was also in the video. But it was also what you were talking about, which was Back to the Future. And seeing, I mean, there were two scenes there that got me. I'm sure you all, if you've seen the movie, you know the part where Marty McFly obviously is playing Johnny B. Good at the what is it, Enchantment Under the Sea dance or something like that, right? So that was definitely like, holy shit, it would be amazing to be that cool. But even before that, the part where he goes to like Doc's whatever, his lab or whatever, and he sees this huge speaker and plugs his guitar in. and hits a chord and flies back, and not very realistic, but I just fell in love with the idea of having that much power in my hands, and the rest is history, which we're going to talk about.
So does that mean you spent your entire career trying to knock yourself on your keister with the volume controls of your speaker stack?
No, I'm actually a very quiet player. I like, in the mix of the stage and the mix in my ears, I like to be right there under the drums, filling in the place where the guitar would usually fill in. So I'm actually not very loud on stage. And if I'm too loud on stage or in my ears, it kind of screws with me. I don't like it. Like, I feel really, I can hear every tiny little thing that I'm playing when I really want to hear the drums, the bass, you know?
Yeah, that's very cool. So you're just making sure that you fill in and that you stay on it,
Exactly.
basically sitting there in the pocket nice and comfy.
Yep.
Like
I
a
do my job
like a
right.
hammock.
Exactly.
So, why don't we move to your move to LA? Because there are plenty of people that go on about their reasons for moving to LA to start their career. Not many of them are as, dare I say, substantive and dramatic as yours. So, why don't
Yeah, well, I mean, if anyone knows anything about Israel here, you know that that area in the world is very controversial. Everything about that place is just controversial, but people live there. And one of the things that happens when you have that much controversy about a place is, in Israel's case, a lot of terrorism. When I think it was 2001 to 2004, I want to say, were the days of the second intifada. There was a first intifada in the 90s. This was the second intifada, which basically means a holy war from the Palestinians against the Israelis. A lot of buses blowing up, a lot of people just walking into restaurants and just blowing up and killing dozens of people. Just a bad time in history, and bad time for both for both countries. And I there was one specific time where I was driving down the street in Jerusalem, going to meet some friends, and I heard I listened to the radio, and a guy just blew. Well, something blew up in Tel Aviv at a club that you and I would go to. Just a place called Mike's Place. Any bar that's playing some live music, we've all been there. Well, a dude tried to walk in with a bomb strapped to his chest, and the guard wouldn't let him in, and he just blew up there. Thankfully, well, I mean, the guard got killed, a few other people got killed and maimed, but thankfully he didn't get in, because when a bomb that big or that size blows up in a constrained area, the shock wave does a lot more damage to everyone that's in there, to their internal organs. I mean, even if you don't die from it, just being in that closed area just really, really, really screws people up. So the guard unfortunately passed away, but he did do his job to the max, and did everything he could to make sure that guy doesn't get in there. But as this was happening, I'm listening to all this happening. I'm listening to the emergency um, broadcast, and just thinking to myself, I'm about 50 minutes away from this in Jerusalem. They're pretty close. And I'm just thinking, I need to get the hell out of here before next week some dude comes up and blows my arm up or stabs me. And like, I just, even if I lived past it, but I couldn't use my fingers, I couldn't use my hand, who knows? I may never know what I could have done in America. So that was it. My brother's wedding was, I think I want to say a month later. I stayed for that, and then 2 months later, I was on a flight to America, to Los Angeles specifically, and I never looked back.
that, like I said, it's dramatic, even if you're telling a third party story, because there are so many what ifs that we've all lived with. But that is one tremendous what if to be facing, particularly because you were only, what, 23 at the time?
Yeah, I was 23, and That was a what if that I didn't want to have to ask myself. I needed to take the chance. I needed to move here and see. And I thought, well, hey, worst case scenario, I've got a career there as an audio engineer. Um, I would have been fine. I would have been fine if I didn't like it here or it didn't work out. I could easily go back and everything. I would have had work, no problem. But I needed to make that decision. I couldn't ask that what if questions years later.
Right. Eric, Anthony, you guys want to pipe in at any point here? You guys have any questions or thoughts on
Uh,
where we're at so far?
so that was amazing. I'm glued to my seat. I'm still listening.
Yeah, no, same here. I'm just, listening and just like focused in on this conversation with like all of my energy because it's just such a crazy and amazing story. But I mean, I think that when you have people going into music, I mean, I think you'll find more often than not, maybe a lot of people don't talk about it, but there are traumatic events that will push somebody in the next part into their career. I think it happens more often than people admit.
I feel like a lot of songs are written from trauma. Whether it's just a lost love, right? I mean, it could be that kind of traumatic experience when you're young, or a divorce, or anything worse than that too. I mean, but I agree with you. I think a lot of those things in the arts come from some kind of traumatic experience.
Yeah, there's definitely a cathartic purpose to any kind of art and creation, certainly for music as well, because we're all dealing with universal themes, and that's what's so appealing about music for many of us.
Right.
So I think we're going to go into the meat of it all, and I'm actually going to go rogue on Anthony and Eric and invite Mark, Mac, and Markeith to come on up and join us on stage if they'd like to. Gentlemen, don't make me play the naughty teacher and start inviting you up haphazardly.
And by the way, I mean, I know we're talking about sync and everything, but I am the guitarist for Smash Mouth. I toured for years with Enrique Iglesias. I mean, I've been touring since 2007, and I've been in sync since 2006. So if anyone has any questions that have to do with the touring side of it, I'm happy to answer that as well.
Cool. So
Yeah.
let's just back up a little bit and talk about writing for sync. We talked about that a little bit this afternoon, where there's a difference between writing for enterprise and writing for expression. And I would
Right.
really love to hear your thoughts.
Well, I really think what it comes to, look, you can get amazing sync placements by giving your music that you lived and died for, like, oh my God, it's the expression of my life, and you put it out there, and you can get sync placements with it, no problem. You can also get sync placements with stuff that you are not connected to at all. You're just making it because it's perfect for a scene, and it's not your life's expression. It's just something that you're doing as a job, if you will, a job that we all enjoy very much, which is making music, but you're not necessarily connected to it by blood. It's not your blood, sweat, and tears, right? It's just maybe an afternoon or a week that you sat down and you made this beautiful track and moved on from it. You're not necessarily like waiting for it to blow up. So you could get sync placements from either. What we were talking about is the fact that sometimes it's hard. Sometimes you get shot down. I remember there's a specific library that I work with, which will remain nameless for the story. And I sent most libraries I send music to are super happy with it. Hopefully yourselves included, right? I mean, they're usually very happy with it. It's perfect for scenes. It's perfect for what it's meant to be. And I sent, I knew this guy personally from actually from some taxi conventions, and I sent him the stuff. I said, listen, I got a lot of non-exclusive stuff if you want. And he's like, well, just send it all. I said, dude, I mean, we're looking at like 180 tracks. You sure you want me to say? He's like, I'll go through them, one at a time. But yes, send me all of them as a link, right? And I did. And he got back to me and he wanted like 9 of them. And I said, okay, I'm happy you want 9. But then I did and I wasn't insulted, but I was like, really? I mean, that's a lot of tracks. You only want 9? But what I appreciated about it is he's a very small venture. And his thing isn't like, yeah, give me all 180. We're going to take all of them in. If anyone here has done metadata, which I'm sure you all have, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to bring in one track into the fold, let alone 180. So he was being very strategic. He was like, these are the 9 songs I know I can make money with for both of us. And I appreciated that. And I didn't take any offense to it. Now, had I sent him the 30 songs that I created with my blood, sweat, and tears, and he said, yeah, I want these 2 songs, I might be very insulted. So it's important that whether you're sending your blood, sweat, and tears songs or just the song that you wrote for a specific scene in mind, it's important that you keep it business. You don't get insulted. There's always going to be someone else that can use that song that someone else didn't want. And yeah, it's just important to keep that in mind.
Yeah, and that touches what we were talking about with expectations in sync, to
Right.
keep it professional instead of personal, because this is your way of making a living outside of, the performance part of it with the expression and the individuality within your artistry.
Yep. Absolutely.
So, now, you said that.
I had on that note, real quick. I had a guy.
Yeah.
It's a short story. I'll make it short. Had a guy hit me up, found me on the internet, hit me up through Twitter. Said, "Hey man, I wrote this album. I put 2 years into it. I recently signed it off to this library. I don't know if I made a mistake or not." I said, "Well, I'm happy to help you. Do you feel comfortable sending me the contract to look at?" "Absolutely, no problem. Here you go." He sent it to me. It wasn't a good contract. But my point was to him, and this is, again, I'm giving you a very long story short. My point was to him is like, dude, don't even worry about it. I was like, first of all, you may make some great money from this. Second thing is, you know how many bad contracts or contracts that are not amazing I've signed in my life? I still signed contracts that aren't amazing. So it's not a big deal. Just keep writing. Don't let it bum you out. Don't be like, God, that took me 2 years to write this. I can't believe. Just write more music. Write better music. Write quicker music. Maybe don't take 2 years to finish it. Maybe take, I don't know, half a year. Like, get faster with it and get some more music out there to other libraries. So you can't really let that bring you down.
Yeah, it's about the experience sometimes, and it's about building your skills, etc., like that. So the learning doesn't just come from whether or not you decide the contract is good enough. It's
Yep,
whether or not the experience as a whole is something you learn from.
exactly.
Yeah. So when did you say that you got into sync? Did you say that was like what, 2006, 2009?
2006. Yeah, I basically I was working at Guitar Center at the time till 2007. Into 2006, I quit and was working here in. I don't know if anyone here has ever worked at GC, but I worked in Sherman Oaks, store 116.
Oh, nice. I'm familiar
And
with it.
yeah, do you know GC?
I worked
I
for
mean,
I worked for music and arts for a while. I worked for the corporate office for music and arts, which is owned by Guitar Center. So we had to deal with corporate Guitar Center corporate and all the Guitar Center stores all the time.
yeah. So um, so yeah, I remember working at a certain point real fast. They promoted me to department manager and etc. And I got a assistant manager. I went through the ranks, right? But I ended up at the GC Pro logistics manager for what that's worth. But I remember when I was working, I was 23, 24, 25 maybe by 2006, right? And I remember just working with people who had a good amount of years on me. They could have been my parents. And I'm like, what? And I knew what they had done. There were people that toured with this band and that band. And I'm looking at them like, dude, what are you doing here? What am I missing? Like GC? at 60 something? Come on. I didn't say that, but I inquired into their experiences because I learn from other people's. I'm the kind of guy that doesn't need to learn, as we say in Hebrew, I don't need to learn it on my own. I'm happy to look at someone else's successes and mistakes and learn from their successes and mistakes. And the biggest thing that I learned, or the two things that I learned, were keep your money in check. Which, Judan, I know you're all about that. Keep your money in check, and write, because publishing and writing is where it is. When you don't have the amazingly gorgeous good looks anymore, and the touring, and when all of that goes to shit, have some, which now I know is called passive income, right? But basically that's what I was told. Keep your money in check and make sure that when you can't make any money anymore, you've invested in passive income that will come in. And that's when I got into writing in 2006.
Yeah, passive income will build wealth, and that's basically how many generations of many of the legacies of the 1% have maintained themselves in the 1%. So
Yeah.
anytime you have passive income, you're working for your future and also that of those that come after you. So it's brilliant. And you're my poster boy, man.
Well, I learned it from people before me, but so I'm just happy to pass it on. That's all. I didn't come up with this.
Oh, no, but so many people need to learn on their own and can't take it by the example of others, but that's okay. We're here for them too.
Yeah.
So how many placements do you have? Or have you lost count?
Oh, I don't count anymore. It's hundreds, probably thousands at this point. I mean, because in 2014, I got sick of writing and publishing, and I stopped for about 4 years. I started again in 2018 at the end of the year, or I don't know, mid-year 2018 is when I started again. But in that time, I was approached by someone that wanted to buy my catalog, so I sold my whole catalog. Between my catalog now and my old catalog, this is so I sold all my songs. For those of you who are not really sure what catalog means, I basically sold all my songs, hundreds of songs. I sold them, writing, publishing, everything. Now, a lot of people on here will tell you, no, don't do that. But I looked at the numbers and I did it. Now, did I buy a new guitar with it? No. I put it into real estate. So all I did was take one passive income, get great money on it. It was a perfect deal for me. I don't know what they got out of it, but I got a great deal, and then I bought another form of passive income from it. So I'm on my second, and then I started again in 2018, as I mentioned, and I'm on my second catalog. I currently have, I want to say, about 450 tracks and songs, something to that effect. Pretty close.
So what you did was diversify. Also
Yes.
very wise.
Yeah. Super important.
So and that's kind of in line, and let me just jump off this. That's kind of in line with what all the legacy performers are doing now with selling their catalogs.
Yep.
It's very much the same. And I'm one of these people, I'm just sitting there going, why? Why would you,
I'll tell you.
why are you going to sell Rosalita? What are you thinking?
Well, I'll tell you what it was for me. In 2014, beginning in 2014, I was done. I walked into the studio and I looked around. I was like, I'm not inspired anymore. And it took me I knew I'd be inspired one day again, but I was not inspired to create a bunch of music. Everything I'd been doing since 2006, I was sort of done with it. And I let myself go through those. Like, if I don't feel like writing, I'm not going to force myself to write. That's not where the good stuff lies. The good stuff lies where you're inspired. So if I'm not inspired, I'm going to go a different direction. Now, at the time, my catalog, as the years went by and I wasn't adding new stuff, was losing momentum. So I'm looking at my catalog, losing momentum year by year. So basically what that means is that newer songs are coming out by other composers, and mine sound like they're from 2006, from 2010. And some people are bringing out new music that sounds like it's 2015, 2016, like really current sounding music. So mine was losing momentum. Uh, Mind you, I was still making money from stuff that I had done, so it was still coming in, but my stuff was getting less and less placements. And then someone came and said, "Hey, I'll pay you 5 years worth of the money that you made in the last 2 years." And I was thinking, that doesn't make any sense, because if you look in the last 2 years, you see that quarter by quarter, my money was going down. Why would they invest? I still don't know. Why would they invest in material that is losing its value and give me 5 years worth at the values that it was worth a year ago? And I just thought, this is brilliant, because I was looking to get into real estate since 2014, and that was my end.
I think Anthony would jump in here and talk about your catalog being evergreen. They had some kind of. Go ahead, Anthony.
Well, yeah. Uh, that's it. Evergreen. There's always a situation where a show being created in a certain time span, and they need authentic music for that time span. And as an artist, though, you don't see that. As an artist, you see your music that you made 10 years ago, and you're done with it. So I understand both sides. But yeah, that person that did that, if they did it right, they turned a profit too.
If they did it right, I'm right there with you. Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, don't know. He was an investor. It was I got a company that does an auction on my catalog, and he was the highest bidder, and that was it. I mean, we got what we wanted and then some, but yeah, he was the highest bidder. The money fit, and it was and that was it. I honestly, I feel what you're saying about the evergreen. I don't know.
Was that
Don't know.
was that a royalty exchange?
I don't remember. I'd have to check. Yeah, I don't remember offhand.
That's the main one that I observed from afar. Royalty exchange, where you see major labels, major label artists actually giving a percentage of their writers and publishing for a certain time, or even rights to life to rights. So that's a thing, and I'm glad he was able to capitalize on it. And like you said, when the feeling came back, you can start over again.
Yeah, absolutely. With stuff that sounds more current. I don't think this was royalty exchange. I'm familiar with royalty exchange. Their stuff, BMI catalog. I'm actually looking it up. But yes, please keep going with any questions you had or anything like that.
Well, while you multitask.
Oh, wait, I know what it is. It was called I don't know if they're still around, but it was called Alternative X Group. And I think it's just for investors to diversify. They're not musicians, but there's some money to be made in music, so they were diversifying their portfolio. While I took the money from there and diversified in my own way because I needed to buy some real estate.
That's great. Yeah, I've tried to convince a lot of VCs that music is an incredible investment, and they're starting to pick up. They're starting to get it, but those in the tech area, they're still not seeing it. But it's been there. Like you've done this years ago, so yeah.
Yeah, I'm all about it.
Yeah, and not for nothing, it's also kind of a vanity investment to be able to shill out money for something that you can just simply say, I had the money to shill out for it.
Yeah.
And that's where you're like, yes, I will take that and I will run right to the bank. Thank you, sir.
Exactly.
Or madam. So, Yuki, thank you so much for popping in. If you'd like to come up on stage, we're going to open things up for questions soon. Mark and Mac have been very patient waiting for me to get through my grilling of Sean Hurwitz. So, with this, Sean, you know very well that I'm on the business side of things. And
Yep.
so the actual musical process has always been fascinating to me. And so we talked a little bit about writing for sync versus writing for personal fulfillment and expression. So what is your process when you're writing? Do you decide that, right now I'm going to write something just simply because I've got this song that I want to create versus I'm going to sit down and write something for sync because, such and such buddy of mine said that they're ramping up production, or how does that?
I mean, I diversify in that as well. It's all of the above. I will either work on a what is it called when they get a brief? I'll either work on a brief that I got from one of the libraries that I'm working with, or I just had an idea that I know I can run with, and it'll take my tracks take me like between 5 and 7 hours, and I'm done from beginning to end. So I either had an idea in my head that I know I can pitch and get placed. I sometimes I write for libraries. They hire me to come in and do an album of this or an album of that in specific genres, or I'll be working on a brief. Those are the three different kinds.
Cool. So a lot of times when you're writing for sync, you've already got the parameters that you're writing for, just simply from your connections and associations.
Yeah, over the years, whether it's briefs or whether it's a company saying, hey, I loved, in fact, you remember I brought up a company that wanted 9 of my songs? Well, that was the non-exclusive, but then they turned to making exclusive material as well. And that gentleman hit me up and he said, hey, I'd love if you did an exclusive album for us. And I said to him, I said, well, I sent you 180 songs. You didn't like most of them. Like, so I'm happy to do it, but what do I have that you like? And he said, first of all, it's not true that I didn't like them. He explained the situation. We just laughed about it. It wasn't, again, no egos hurt or anything like that. I was just surprised. I was like, it didn't sound like you really enjoyed my stuff, but you want me to make an album for you. And he said, I really enjoyed your rock stuff. So I was like, okay, you know what? Actually, this brings up Judan. So I had created 10 tracks randomly. I had in the last 2 months before he had spoken to me, I had created amongst the other tracks, I had created 10 rock tracks that didn't have an outlet yet. I just created them because I knew they'd be perfect for sync. And I said, well, these are available. What do you think of them? And he said, these are great. I'll take them. So he was super happy. And but he does 12 songs per album, so I had to create another 2. But yeah, so it's the relationships, and it's people come to me and tell me what they need, or stuff to that effect. But yeah, that's all I've got. I find out what they need one way or another, whether it's briefs or whether they come and tell me. And again, if I don't know, I'll just go with my gut and create something that I know will do well, and it always does. It always finds a place.
Yeah. If I could jump in, Judan, um, it,
Please.
in that odd person's defense, because you make great music, Sean, but every company hopefully has a brand and wants to create a personality. Like
Right.
with us, we like very intense emotional music. So, you know, you had 180 songs, and I'm sure not all of them fit his personality or what his brand is for, even though all the songs were placeable. So
Right.
I could see him doing that. We try to do that too, or at least we'll go back and say, hey, well, do you have anything that fits this, or anything that kind of does like that? So I could see that person doing that, but I would see them doing that after complimenting you on the music.
Well, he may have. He may have. I mean, we knew each other, so it wasn't like, oh my God, my heart is broken.
Right,
We were cool.
right.
There wasn't any issue there. I see what you're saying, though. And on that note, every library, you guys know this, Mark, Mac, hopefully you guys know this as well, but if you don't, every library has their, like you said, Anthony, has a brand, but it's more than that. It's they cater to specific music supervising individuals. Now, some music supervisors like to receive this kind of music in this kind of format, in these kind of folders. The other music supervisor doesn't like that at all. This music supervisor likes to hear 6-minute full songs that are just like insane with long solos. This music supervisor, if you give him a song that's longer than a minute and a half, he's lost interest. So each library finds music supervisors that they click with, and that's who they cater to. That's what the brand turns into. And by the way, this gentleman loved the 10 tracks, the 10 rock tracks that I gave him, but he did ask me, can you change the arrangement? And what he wanted was, it was very specific, because the people that he caters to love this. They love to get whatever your song is, no less than 2 minutes. So if I had a song that was a minute and a half, I'd have to extend it. No less than 2 minutes, and it needs to start with 100%. Like from the top, if the music supervisor is going to listen to the first 20 seconds, they need to get exactly what this song or cue is about. They can't wait for you to build it for a minute and then get to it. His music supervisors, guys that he works with, wanted it from the start. Give us 20 seconds, your elevator pitch. I want to hear what this song is about. If I'm not sold in 20 seconds, I'm moving on. So I had to adapt those 10 songs I had already created and rearrange them to fit what his clients needed.
Thank you for saying that, Sean.
Yeah.
You literally that was literally the point that I was gonna make, and I was about to jump in with that. Like, you don't, like, from the musician perspective, you don't know what their relationships are. You don't know like what relationships they have, like what music supervisors they know, and more specifically what relationship they have with those music supervisors, and what what type of music that they're usually trying to go for. And so from the musician perspective, you don't know that. So like there's no way of, knowing which of your songs really are going to be, with 100% accuracy, knowing which of your songs are going to be the ones that they want.
Right. I mean, you can do your best on the musician side. You can do your best, the composer, musician. You can do your best to give them what you think they might need, edit points, some kind of quick intro, a sting at the end. You could even I always burn, when I'm done with the song, when it's mixed, I burn down all the stems or alt mixes right then and there, so I don't even have to go back to it usually. I usually have it ready to go. You could think like I tell people, think like a music supervisor, and you could do your best to give them what they want. But sometimes someone's going to come and say, yeah, this is great, but it's a minute 45 and we don't do anything less than 2 minutes. Okay, then you have to go back and rearrange some stuff.
Excellent. So let's open things up a little bit. Mark, Mac, you guys have been so patient. So Mark, what do you...
And thank you guys. Appreciate you being here.
Mark? Going once? Mac, you ready for a little contribution?
Hey, good evening, everybody. I'm going to have to keep listening. I'm kind of like at work, but there's some great stuff, Sean.
Appreciate it. And no worries, no worries. I understand if people are busy. You want to shoot the shit about some touring stuff? Anyone got questions? I mean, I know Mark, Mac, I know you guys are busy, but anyone got any questions about that, or anything that's not sync related or Israel related, or should we call it? Your call.
We still got music review.
Yeah. Well, with touring, you're on a hiatus right now for, I guess, the rest of the year, or are you just on a Thanksgiving hiatus?
Smash Mouth didn't usually do anything like the last month or two of the year have always been slow. So yeah, I don't have anything. Although last weekend, a few days ago, really, I was in Mexico with Sugar Ray. They had called me the day before they left and said that their guitarist Rodney, I know all of them, we used to tour with them. Rodney had found out his passport expired, and they needed a backup. So I had, I don't know, I had basically six in the evening. I started working on the music, and I had to know it by Saturday evening for the show, the whole set. Sometimes that's how it works.
What's your strategy when something like that happens?
One by one, I just I try to learn. I'll listen to the song. I'll try to pick up on exactly being a guitarist. There's always a million guitar parts, usually a million guitar parts. I will do my best to try and pick out which ones are the ones that the guitarist I'm replacing or subbing for, which parts they're playing actually. I look it up on YouTube. I try to see what they're playing live. If I'm not really sure because I can't hear it that well, or I'll literally look up YouTube tutorials for that song. Like, hang on, what? I think I got this. One second. Let's see. So the song "Fly." Right? It's a weird thing he's doing there, which for the years that I toured with them, I was always like, what is he doing there? It's so, it's just so peculiar. And then I actually pulled up some tutorials because I couldn't see, there was no video of him doing it live close enough for me to see. And so I pulled up a tutorial and I was like, oh yeah, that is definitely wrong, but that part is spot on. So yeah, I build it like that. Then once I know all the parts, I'll run it a few times until I feel comfortable with it. Then figure out what the sounds are, compressors, delays, drive, clean, all that good stuff, and then move on to the next song, one by one.
Yeah, that riff really is identifiable as Sugar Ray.
It is, it really is.
And I don't think that anyone has used it before or since, at least not to my knowledge.
And then he had the other one. What was it? Hang on. He had. Oh. So, which is again such a unique. It's just a specific Sugar Ray song. The funny thing is, exactly. and then of course, you think to yourself, easy song, right? It's just a few chords, but he's playing. But I have to learn that riff. Then I have to learn when he's going to. So I have to learn when he's doing that, and then he goes into. He goes to that riff. He also goes to what was it? So he's doing all these different riffs, and you have to remember when he goes to each one of them. When he plays this one twice, then he goes to 4 times of this riff, then it goes back to the original, and then so it's all over the place. And you have to. I try to learn it without notes as best as I can. And if I have to have notes, then I'll just write out exactly what I need to know. 2 times of this, 5 times of that. I'll always use different key triggers from my childhood to remember something is the way it is. So, for instance, I don't know, maybe something reminds me of, maybe a riff reminds me of Stairway to Heaven. Well, I'll just remember that riff is the Stairway to Heaven riff. You know, I'll always connect it to stuff I already knew in the past. But the funny thing is about that story, by the way, is I knew going in that I was getting paid and everything was good, but I knew that they were still trying to get Rodney there. And he actually got there 3 hours before the show and did the show, which was such a relief for me because I love going up and jamming with my buddies, but it's going up without a rehearsal and doing a show in front of a bunch of people with a band you've never played with other than soundcheck. is it's nerve-wracking. I mean, no one in the crowd would have known. I play it off like no problem. I did it for 4 years with Enrique, but it's nerve-wracking. It's not easy.
I want to thank Alan for popping in and coming up with us. We've been talking with Sean Hurwitz about his career in sync, and we're talking now about his tour life with the likes of Enrique Iglesias and Smash Mouth, and his misadventure this past weekend with Sugar Ray in Mexico. Just for shits and giggles, Sean, with the deal with Rodney with his passport, isn't something like that prudent for you guys to stay on top of?
It's COVID. It's mine. I always stay on my passports. Mine's go to till 2027, and my Israeli passport needs to be renewed before next year November. So I'll probably go take care of that in about 6 months. I've got it in my I've got it in my calendar. But COVID really screwed things up because you stopped using your passport instead of having my suitcase just open in the bedroom because I'm going to be using it every weekend. There was no point. I, put everything away and put it in the garage because I'm not going to need it every single weekend or every single week. So COVID that's what it did to us. It kind of screwed us up with the passports, I guess. Some of us.
I'm not sure that the garage is really the recommended storage spot for a passport.
No, the suitcase, not the passport is in the safe.
Oh, okay. But you do have two.
Makes more sense.
You have one for the U.S. and one for Israel, so you have your dual citizenship.
I've got 3. First of all, yes, dual citizenship. I don't know if you know this, but you can actually get 2 American passports. And the reason why this would happen was while I was with Enrique, going out to, I don't know, Israel, at the same time, they need to be sending out our passports while we're using the passports. They need to send out our passports to get visa stamped for, name some random country that we're doing in 2 months from now. So there literally was no way to do this without 2 passports. So they issued us everyone had 2 passports. So I actually have 2 American passports.
Oh, that's fascinating.
But yeah, dual citizenship.
Yeah, that's the 2 U.S. passports. Is that just since COVID, or has that been for a while?
No, that's pre-COVID. I mean, COVID, no one's traveling. Travel is so minimalized. I'm talking about before COVID. I left Enrique about 2 years ago. Maybe 2.5 years ago. Yeah, about 2.5 years ago. And I'm talking about before that. I toured with him for 4 years, and we were double passported about most of that time.
That's quite fascinating.
Yeah,
okay. So, Mark, I think you opened up your mic. Were there any comments, thoughts, or questions that you had for Sean at the moment?
No, but it's good to hear you, Sean. Can you hear me? Because I got my headphones in.
Yes, sir. How you doing, Mark?
I always enjoy this stuff. I'm a road warrior, but not in the sense of the big band like you've played with. But I can identify with all the stuff, the travel fun, and what you can get into. But no,
we didn't even
I don't
talk
have
about
any...
what you could get into.
Yeah, well, you didn't go there. I was talking about the shows themselves.
Yeah.
But I like these guys, and especially talking about sync because it's kind of new to me. Well, about 1.5 years. You were talking about COVID changing everything, and that's when it all changed for me. And I'm puffing because I'm walking, but that's when I decided to hole up in my bedroom and start doing sync music. And it couldn't have been a better thing. I'm just so happy that I kind of rediscovered it. I gave up on it years ago when I would send stuff to Taxi and get those rejections. You just go, oh man, I can't do this, They're never going to take anything or whatever. But once I really applied myself and did stuff every day, I realized I could write better tracks and just keep getting better sounds and what we all do to make it happen. Take classes to learn how to mix and all that stuff. So I love it because I play a lot of instruments, and I went to Nashville and did the country thing like so many songwriters do because there's opportunity, right? And I tried that for 12 years. Never got anywhere. A lot of indie cuts, but not what I wanted. And I would never, I wasn't touching my piano. I picked up guitar for that. And never wasn't touching the keyboards except for gigs, saxophone, steel drum. All the other instruments I play were just literally collecting dust. And then all of a sudden, I got use for every single one of them, and I'm just getting more. I bought a trumpet 3 weeks ago, and I'm really having fun playing it. It's just so, it's really different than anything else I play. And I've always wanted to do that, and I'm just loving it. So there's no end to it. I can play the double reeds, I can play all the brass, pick them up along the way, and I always have something to do with them. Do fully orchestrated stuff with the real instruments. Anyway, I'm rambling. That's thanks for inviting me up, and carry on.
Man, that's awesome, man. I'm glad you got into it. It's funny you mentioned Taxi and not having success with that. I didn't go through Taxi for stuff, but the guy that got me back into doing it, like I said, 2014, I stopped creating music for this purpose, and I was only doing live stuff. I was very busy with Smash and then Enrique. But then in 2018, I got back into it because of Michael Laskow, the owner of Taxi.
Yeah.
He's a friend of mine, and we ended up talking. And long story short, I got back into it. He inspired me to get back into it, not for Taxi's sake, but just as a friend. He was very instrumental in getting me back into into doing my whole second catalog.
Yeah, he's an inspiring guy. I watched probably too many of his videos back in the day. I just watched them all, and I was very inspired. I just didn't have the chops back then. Basically, I didn't have the gear either. It was really I was using DP, like the first version or something that somebody gave me, and lame drum sounds, and bass was just laughable. I think that was part of it. At least that's my excuse. I'd turn his stuff that sounded real amateur, largely because the instruments sounded Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
But leaving it go all those years and then coming back, I had a really, really fresh perspective. So, and a fresh perspective on Taxi too. I've gotten a lot of forwards, still not anything through them, but the guys I write with, I've had success with them and stuff. So, I got rid of my attitude, and they're all right by me now.
It's important. Listen, hopefully you took some constructive criticism, and that's
Absolutely.
super important in our business. And whether you're playing live or you're making music for sync, it's important to listen to what people are telling you. They know what's up. Listen to Judan, listen to Eric, listen to Anthony, listen to to music supervisors, to libraries. They'll tell you what they need.
Yeah, it's very important, your attitude. By the way, I just noticed Alan. How you doing, Alan? This guy knows more than all of us put together. I guess you know that. He's a superstar. But yeah, absolutely. Your attitude's everything, and that probably came across, even though you try to hide it. If you don't have the right attitude, it comes across.
Yeah,
one way or the other. And now I know it's such a relationship business that you just can't afford to be a jerk. And I hope I'm not a jerk anyway, but you know what I'm saying. You got to be well liked if you're going to get anywhere with it.
Relationships.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mark. Alan, we wanted to say hi and welcome you to the room. And we've been talking to Sean now for an hour about his experience with Sync, his experience on the road with various bands. Alan, do you have some words of wisdom to share with us? Do you have anything you want to ask? Please.
Oh, thank you. Actually, I was planning just to listen today because I'm on granddad duty, and I drove my grandson to his 15-year-old grandson to his basketball training. So I'm just doing cardio around the bleachers, around the basketball court. I thought I'd do a little listening, but you know, my background is I've been working on the sync side as a music publisher or as a personal manager for over 40 years. And, you know, the first 30, I was kind of like a really aggressive individual pushing to maximize sync opportunities for all of my clients. So I did everything from running a production music library in England to setting up a commissioning service where our clients, we would reach out to all the people who were looking for sync for things to be specifically written for scenes or for commercials and stuff, and we operate that as a commissioning service, and all the way through to partnering with television networks and film and TV studios to handle the publishing for their catalogs, which obviously granted a lot more access to work with their music supervisors and the in-house people who do the licensing. And so for about 30 years I was very aggressive in that to maximize opportunities for clients. But then I had like a crazy run from about 2007 to about 2017, like a 10-year run where my clients were all so hot that I was just reacting and I wasn't pitching. So I've been sort of kind of surfing the wave and just clearing and receiving phone calls and clearing on the sync side. And now I don't know if I should say we're post-COVID or not, because we're not, but so now I'm in a position where a lot of my clients have sold their catalogs. They've converted their copyrights into cash with this new wave of money coming into that business, and I'm doing the same thing with some of my publishing assets. And so I'm just thinking about what 2022 will look like for me, because when clients sell their copyrights, or if I sell my catalogs, you know, I'm monetizing, but I'm also shedding catalogs, copyrights, and clients in some cases. So I'm just listening, you know, thinking, postulating about what do I do in 2022 and on in terms of new clients and new strategic methods of approach to this business. So here I am. I guess I'm like a butterfly shedding a wing or two, and now I've got to figure out, you know, exactly how I want to restructure my business moving forward. So that's like in a nutshell where I'm at right now. Although over the years I've always been a music publisher, but I've also been a personal manager for a long, long time as well. So that's me.
Well, Alan, I'd love to chat with you. You may have found a new client if you want one. I just don't have anyone representing me. I'm not an artist per se, so it would be an interesting. It might be different than what you're used to, but it doesn't sound like you'd be against that. It sounds like you're sort of looking. We should talk.
Yeah, I'm 71 years old, and I'd like to have the right balance in my life and the right clients, and that sounds like a great idea. So if you just DM me on Instagram, we'll figure out time to find time to chat. Where are you based now? Which city?
LA, Los Angeles.
Okay, yeah, me too. I'm in the West Valley.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I've actually had terrific luck with guitar players. I signed a guitar player from Morocco.
Wow.
In 2001 as a management client, and I represented him for 17 years, and we had, you know, over 100 hit singles together and more than 50 number one singles too, if you count iTunes, you know, not just Billboard, you know.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
And you probably played his songs with Enrique, because that client is Red One, and he produced and co-wrote I Like It.
Yep.
And I like.
That's what we closed every show with.
Yeah, and he wrote, like, he and Enrique became pretty good friends, so he actually wrote a lot of songs with Enrique, but the biggest I think was I Like It, and then I Like How It Moves, I think is one.
I Like How It Feels.
How It Feels, that's the one, yeah, where the
Yeah,
video
that was
is on
the
that
third one
water
in the
ski thing. So he and Enrique, you know, but Enrique was a little bit of a devil, you know. Never leave your cell phone unattended when he's around. I'm sure you
That's
know
true.
that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'd love to chat. I mean, I'm wide open right now. Just going to figure out, you know, what the next 10 years looks like, you know.
Yeah, you and me both.
Yeah. But that's fun, because if you write songs and you produce and you play guitar and you're well, you know, you're established to some degree in the sync world, those are all that's my sweet spots. I've managed producers for well over 30 years, you know. So, you know, I co-managed David Foster for a while, Jay Graydon, Greg Matheson, those guys, and the list of producers. And one of them, actually Adam Anders, came to me, I'm guessing around about 2005. And I took him on, and his publishing deal was expiring, so I took him over to Steve Vincent and Disney, and we did songs for Hannah Montana, High School Musical, single for Miley Cyrus, Jonah Brothers soundtrack, and then over to Fox, and then we ended up doing a bunch of TV themes, and then we ended up doing the Glee pilot, and then all 6 seasons of Glee from start to finish, pretty much. So Adam just killed it in the sync world, but not just sync. His side of it was more work for hire because it was Disney and Fox. But again, very, very lucrative. You know, very successful.
Oh yeah. Well, I look forward to chatting.
Okay, me too. All right, I'll hang up now and just listen for a bit because I'm going to start doing the bleachers a bit more aggressively, so my breath will be gone.
It's good to see you.
Thank you.
Alan, if your career isn't enough to admire, your multitasking skills are certainly out of this world between your family bonding, your athleticism, and your networking. I think there's so much to aspire to just in that example alone.
Yeah, but then I think I was a much better multitasker when I was younger. You know, right now in my 70s, and I had COVID a little over a year ago, and definitely my memory recall and my, you know, balance were affected from that. So, you know, but thank you. I don't think talking on the phone, running up and down the bleachers, listening on the phone and watching my grandson shoot buckets and train, I don't really think of that as multitasking. Multitasking is when I've got Universal Music Group on one line, Sony on the other line, Warner's on hold on another line, for 3 different clients for 3 different projects. You know, that's kind of multitasking. This is kind of easy.
Okay, well, we'll take the regional finals version of multitasking for you as opposed to the Olympic version of multitasking for you.
Yeah, high school semifinals.
All right, thank you so much, sir. So, Sean, Anthony, did you want to pop in?
Oh yeah. I just love this conversation with Alan and Sean. And even Mark. It reminds me of OODA. Where you observe, you orient, you decide, and you act, and you do it as often as you can, and you do it yearly to see how things went, how things going to go. So I love to see that this is what successful people are doing, and I'm definitely trying to do the same thing with us.
It's awesome.
Yeah, I have a feeling someday with Sean and Alan, we're going to be like, remember when they met here in our Clubhouse room? Those crazy kids.
You know, it actually touches on something that I would think about. I feel like if Sean and I actually do work together, and then if we actually do have substantial successes, Sean, we'll have to remind ourselves that we met in this room. Whose room is it? Is it Judan's?
It's actually Panfurware's, which is Anthony's company. I'm just the Grand Mistress of.
Okay, so he's not here today, so it doesn't matter. But then we have to
He's
remember.
here.
We have to, oh, there we go. Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
So we would have to, Sean, if we do work together, if we do have some substantial success, we have to remember to cut off a token percentage for Anthony and Judan to.
I'll take a wave and a thank you. I'm okay with that.
All right.
Thank you, Alan. You're such a good gent. I appreciate that.